Bill of Adoptee Rights allow adoptees to gain knowledge of their religious and ethnic heritage and gain access to vital medical information that may be beneficial to preventative health care or the treatment of diseases or disorders linked to family history and genetics. One of the mothers who has advocated for passage of this bill, who is not with us today, but I think most of the advocates know her, Jill Auerbach, gave up her son for adoption and years later hired a private investigator to track him down to make sure he was aware of congenital heart defects that ran in the family, particularly on the male side. This information, as her son that she gave up for adoption was approaching the age of 40, and his father, biological father, and his biological grandfather on his father's side died of massive heart attacks in their 40s. This information potentially saved the young man's life by him going to see a cardiologist and getting the medical attention he would not have dreamed of seeking at the age of 40. It also allowed the birth mother a sense of relief, Jill, at being able to ensure that the grown-up child had this valuable and life-saving information. This should not only be possible for those with the financial resources to hire a private investigator. There are many people that do not have those financial resources, and they are certainly put at a competitive disadvantage. Anyone that has lots of money can hire private investigators, and with the use of the internet and other technology can find their information about their birth parents, and even sometimes illegally can get access to that birth certificate, but that's certainly not something that we want to encourage. The passage of this bill is long overdue. It is time these archaic laws be amended to reflect our current reality. After Senator Montgomery, we're going to hear from a number of the advocates who are going to tell you some of their stories. But without further ado, Senator Velmanette Montgomery from Brooklyn.
Thank you. I want to thank my colleague, Assemblyman Weprin, for picking up this legislation and making it a two-house bill. It also is now a bipartisan bill. There were questions when we first introduced the bill a few years ago by many of my colleagues regarding the rights of the birth parents and concerns about there being some issues related to their rights. However, the bill has been corrected and their rights are protected, but we feel that it is extremely important that no one has the right to refuse information to people who should have that available to them. So this is now a bipartisan, bicameral, if you will, bill, and we anticipate that it has a much better chance of passing, hopefully soon. We hope this session, but certainly before the two-year session is over. So I want to thank the adoptive advocates and those parents who are biological parents of adopted children who have been really supporting this, pushing this, and demanding that New York State do something that is the right thing to do for adopted people. So thank you very much, and without further ado, Assemblyman Weprin will introduce some of the advocates who are here today.
Thank you, Senator Montgomery, who's been a real hero, champion this legislation for many, many years. Let me call upon Joyce Bahr, who's head of the Unsealed initiative, and I'll have Joyce identify some of the individuals that may have some stories to tell. Joyce?
One thing is for certain, we owe a great deal of gratitude to our bill sponsors, to Senator Velmanette Montgomery and Assemblymember David Weprin. And most of all, what is very important is the right of the adopted person trumps the right of the birth or natural parent or adoptive parent. The inalienable right to know. For years, adoptees have been searching. Adoptees emancipated themselves with an underground search network. Many adoptees were confronted with a negative stereotype because they searched. Also, many birth parents have been searching for a number of years along with adoptees. There was one birth parent in the 90s who contacted the adoption agency. She wanted the agency to know that she had found her daughter. The response from the agency worker was, "The Attorney General would like to know how you found your daughter." We are sick and tired of the negativity and the negative stereotypes labeling us as bad for searching for birth parents, bad for searching for the children we gave up. I was reunited with my son by the adoption agency in 1985, and the agency was happy to reunite us. There was nothing negative about it. However, there is still a feeling that adoptees are bad. Birth parents are bad for searching. And not only the Attorney General, does the Attorney General have kind words for those of us who are searching? What about the governor? What about the speaker? What about the Senate Majority Leader? They should all be behind us, be happy that we're searching, and not have any negativity or make us feel that we're wrong. Social mores have changed over the years. It used to be that sex before marriage was bad. There were a number of things that it was bad to be gay. It is no longer bad to search or wrong to search for your birth parents, to pick up the phone and make a call. Thank you.
I have been for almost 30 years devoted to advocating for the rights of the adult adoptee. Our bills in the Senate and Assembly would bring the archaic secrecy of laws of New York into an enlightened age of reason and basic fairness. Adoption laws were enacted to remove the stigma of illegitimacy of the children born out of wedlock. But in practice, these laws lock the adoptee into a contract made by third parties that secret their identities, to which, as a minor, the adoptee did not have the legal capacity to consent. As an adult, is not given the ability to see the factual basis of that contract. The adoptees are the only classification of Americans not permitted to routinely obtain their birth certificates. The New York adoption laws enacted to protect the adopted child have increasingly punitive effect on that same child once he or she becomes an adult. So the question is, why are the rights of the adopted person to his or her own birth information become subordinate to the presumed confidentiality rights of the birth parent? Adoptees simply want the same information afforded all Americans, whether or not they choose to search out their birth parents. As most birth parents will tell you, they were never promised lifelong or even limited confidentiality. As an adoptee, I can tell you that it is the very secrecy that strains adoptive family relationships. Providing adoptees access to their own information is a matter of legal equality, common decency, and basic fairness. Removing this unfair law will effectively remove that last existing stigma associated with being adopted. And we call upon the New York legislature to restore unconditionally the right of adopted adults to access their unaltered original birth record.
Thank you, Ellen.
I want to thank the Assemblyman Joe Pessolano from Staten Island I'd like to thank the Assemblyman and Senator for your support. It's very important that we pass this bill. I am a 52-year-old male who was born in the Bronx, brought to Staten Island as a 7-month-old baby, and when I was 29, I found my mother and my father in the area where I was working here in Greenwich Village. Used to go into a delicatessen where my father used to work and buy my coffee from him. I had no idea it was him. Very true. There was no confidentiality. I found all the information from the adoption papers that my adoptive parents had given me, and it's just a very important bill that has to be passed. Babies grow up to be adults. We want to know our medical history. We want to know our genealogy on the hereditary side as well. So thank you very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Zara.
Anybody else? Just give your name, identify yourself.
My name is Zara Phillips. I'm an adoptee from England, and I just want to share with you all that in England the records have been open since 1975. Nothing terrible has happened. I have had a great reunion with my birth mother, my sister, my brother. If birth mothers do not want to be contacted, adoptees are very respectful of that fact. And then they can go on to have relationships with other members of the family. So I urge you, America, I am now an American citizen. I'm absolutely shocked and appalled for a country that is so supposedly ahead. You can be so behind with a human rights issue like this.
Thank you. Whatever you want.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Dusky, and in 1966 in Rochester, I gave up a baby. Today, I'm a grandmother in sensible shoes, unfortunately, and by paying somebody some money, because I was able to, 3 months rent, I found my daughter in 1981, and we were reunited then. I am one of many, in fact, most birth mothers want to know who their children are, what happened to them. We do not make new lives without knowing what happened to them. They are part of our life, day in and day out. But still, the people who control the legislature right now, and we hope that these two people will be able to push the bill forward this year, say that it's birth mothers like myself who can control the lives and identities of the adoptees behind me, the adoptees that email me from all over the country who were born and adopted in New York. It is so unfair that a small minority of people can control with the state the lives of the other people who never had a say. Can they have their rights? Can they have their identities? It is really time. I call on the speaker, I call on all of the people who are opposed to this to ask themselves, where is there another law that holds one group of people under the control of another? You have to go back very far. You have to go back to 1863. Thank you.
Qualify myself, my first child was given up in 1965 against my will, and when I finally started to search for that person, I found this denial of rights to all adoptees makes me sick, and that's why I got involved with this. And I think I want to thank Senator Weprin for championing this. I know this has cost them somewhat politically, and I really appreciate their help. Without them, this would be nowhere. The wave is growing. Oregon just opened the records completely. Other states have. Previously, the opposition was that it would cause more abortions. I wouldn't be here if I thought this caused more abortions. But that's been very well disproven. As Zara just said, England opened the records 25 years ago, and they haven't sunk into the ocean, and lightning hasn't struck them all dead. And all these states that have done this are not experiencing any bad effects at all. And I don't think there's any reason for the adoptees are not little babies forever. They're these people that are standing behind us, and some of them are as old as I am. And we all deserve, no matter who we are, we all deserve to know where we came from and who we are. And if that may be all you want to find out, that's very satisfying to a lot of people. And they feel that they're whole again, that the part that's been missing in their life is now filled in. And I appreciate very much this opportunity, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to see all this support, and I want to thank you again.
Thank you. Anybody else come forward now? You have something to say?
How you doing? Yeah. My name's Pete, and this is Callisto Franklin. We're from New Jersey, and Cal brought his birth certificate. Right? Who wants this? Nobody. Nobody can have this except this guy. This is his birth certificate. No matter what I do with him. You want to take him home? He keeps that. He keeps that. It's his. I advocate for soldiers who happen to be adopted. I know a lot of guys who've been to Iraq and Afghanistan, and they're trusted to carry weapons for their country and their states, but they're not trusted with their own identities. There's something wrong with that. So people have compassion for a soldier who might die and maybe want to know his roots before he goes, but you should have compassion for everybody. Stop discriminating against adopted persons. They deserve their record. So I brought a t-shirt for the assemblymen.
Oh, thank you.
It has the AWOL website on the front. On the back it has the free states: Alabama, Alaska, Kansas, Maine, New Hampshire, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Tennessee, and that's New York, and with a Sharpie. But let's make that permanent. Let's lead the way. All right? Thank you.
Anybody else? Guys, come forward. Give your name, please.
I am Chris Bischoff, a reunited adoptee born in New York City, and I just wanted to read something that from I think the original fighter for open and original birth certificates, Frederick Douglass, freed slave, who opens his narrative autobiographical story by saying, "I was born in Tuckahoe near Hillsborough, about 12 miles from Easton in Talbot County, Maryland. I have no accurate knowledge of my age, never having seen any authentic record containing it. By far the larger part of the slaves know as little of their ages as horses know of theirs, and it is the wish of most masters within my knowledge to keep their slaves thus ignorant. I do not remember to have ever met a slave who could tell of his birthday. They seldom come nearer to it than planting time, harvest time, cherry time, springtime, or fall time. A want of information concerning my own was a source of unhappiness to me even during childhood. The white children could tell their ages. I could not tell why I ought to be deprived of the same privilege. I was not allowed to make any inquiries of my master concerning it. He deemed all such inquiries on the part of a slave improper and impertinent and evidence of a restless spirit. The nearest estimate I can give makes me now between 27 and 28 years of age. I come to this from hearing my master say sometime around 1835 that I was about 17 years old. My mother was Harriet Bailey. She was the daughter of Isaac and Betsy Bailey, both colored and quite dark. My mother was of a darker complexion than either my grandmother or grandfather. My father was a white man. He was admitted to be such by all I ever heard speak of my parentage. This opinion was also whispered that my master was my father, but of the correctness of this opinion I know nothing. The means of knowing were withheld from me."
Sure. Anybody else want to speak?
I'll let her ask a
Come
question
forward.
first.
You want to get? You have a question?
Can you tell us what the status of the bill is right now?
Yeah, the status of the bill is in the Assembly. I can speak for. It's out of the Health Committee with the strong support of Chairman Richard Godfrey, who chairs the Health Committee, has been a strong supporter of the bill. It's presently in the Codes Committee. There have been various meetings at the leadership level in the Assembly, and I'm hoping it'll come out of the Codes Committee either this week or next week and go to the floor.
And of course, in the Senate, it has not come out of committee, but we
Not
will.
out of the Health Committee?
No, so we will be advocating for that to happen, hopefully in the next few days.
And what's the opposition? What's the basis of the opposition?
Well, we don't really have strong opposition at this point in time. It's just the politics of what happens to bills in the Senate. And we do have a Republican lead sponsor on the bill, but it really has been the champion of this legislation has been on the Democratic side. So we'll have to see how in the next few days.
Who's the Republican sponsor?
Senator Lanza from Staten Island.
We actually, in the Assembly, we have 82 sponsors. We have 60 Democrats and 22 Republicans in the State Assembly. So if we can get the bill to the floor, I can pretty much guarantee it'll pass, just based on that.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Judy Foster, and I am on the board of directors of the American Adoption Congress, which is a national organization that believes in truth in adoption. I surrendered my daughter in 1961 and was reunited with her in 1998. When I got a copy of the surrender document that I signed, it said that I promised not to seek the home of my child or in any way molest or interfere with the family in which she may be placed. Clearly, not language to protect me, but to protect her parents from me coming back into her life. When I met my daughter's adoptive father, he said to me, "We always knew your name, Judy Foster. We always knew your name." And I am here to tell you that 95% of us want to know what happened to our children. And I thank Joyce and the Unsealed Initiative for their efforts here in New York, and to the Assemblyman and the Senator, we wish you Godspeed.
Thank you.